Hi there, and good morning or good evening, depending on where you are. How are you all doing? Um, I haven't been on here for a little while, so I hope that you have not forgotten about me. um, yeah, I'm afraid that this is going to be a little bit of a rant because I have a lot to say. Hi there, Woodsman Bushcraft. Good to see you. As you can see from the title, I believe that it really is rigged against you, you know. And we are going to talk about that. We're going to look at some current events, and I think that the mask is off now. We are seeing what's really going on, and maybe we should have seen it before. Maybe some of you have. Maybe I'm not that smart. Maybe I don't know. But at least now we are seeing it, or everyone should see it now. KP Heathen, good to see you. Horror Business is here. Yeah. Um, you know, I've been keeping an eye on the news, both I don't really call it news, the things they write in mainstream media, but also the news in alternative media concerning those that are referred to as the elites. I call them the parasites, and also the people who aspire to be part of the elites. And one thing I have noticed is that they have a lot of spare time. They have a lot of spare time to go partying, to go on vacations, to just do everything else but work. That I have noticed. I wouldn't have had time for that because I have to work. So it makes me think that maybe these people are not in those positions because of their hard work. Maybe they are in those positions because of something else. I'm stating the bloody obvious here, I guess. Hi there, Laura, Green Eyed Lady, Joe, Sharp Canines. Good to see you all. Sharp Canines says, your video in the woods was good. Well, thank you. What I'm going to do is, just so you know, I have 4 channels and here on YouTube. They're all linked to in the video description, except the one that you are on right now. And I tried to do so-called midweek musings, I call them, on my main channel, and those videos were shared to this channel, but it confused the algorithm. So apparently I'll just have to stick to the same format and the same sort of topic on each channel, which I'll do from now on again. Sometimes you have to try different things here on this this increasingly horrible platform. So, yeah. Another thing I have noticed is that if I do something that is illegal, now I'm not a criminal, so that would be, driving too fast. I have done that, and I've gotten a fine, I think, on 2 or 3 occasions in my life for driving too fast, and I'm sorry about that. And I absolutely agree that I should get a fine if I drive too fast, because we shouldn't do that. So I'm not protesting that. But if, let's say, I didn't pay that fine, they would eventually put me in prison, even though it wasn't that much money because I wasn't driving that fast, but a little bit too fast. What else have I done that is illegal? Um, Nothing, I think. um, I haven't done bad stuff because I think we shouldn't do bad stuff. But I know, oh yeah, if I was, oh, some I don't want to get into the practical details, but I paid in taxes from my company. I think it was like one krone, which is 10% of a dollar, too little in my taxes on one occasion, and that put the whole machine in motion. You know, so we are absolutely monitored, and you know we feel the iron heel of the government on our neck if we don't fall in line and do what they say, basically. you know, um, and the, and it makes me think: why is it that they will put me in prison eventually for paying a little bit, just a tiny amount too little? It was a mistake in taxes. But these people, the so-called elites that I call the parasites, and the people who aspire to be like them and to be among them, they can do so many things, and they can even talk about it. They can even talk about it in interviews and so on without consequences. Why is that? Why is that? Like, there is this case, I won't get into details, I've talked about it before, but here in Norway, the whole disgusting, stinking pile of shit that is the Norwegian royal family and the people with associations with them, they're all doing cocaine. I mean, it's obvious. It's obvious. They've even admitted to that. Not saying the king himself is doing cocaine. That's not what I'm saying. But the whole bunch of, as they say in Ireland, a shower of bastards. And they, this royal rapist, as we call him, he's had several of these influencer girlfriends, and it's like, oh yeah, they were partying and doing cocaine. Why the hell are they not in jail? Because last time I checked, that's illegal. That's illegal. And don't give me that shit about, oh, it doesn't harm anyone if they do that to themselves. It absolutely does, It's one of the most brutal businesses on the planet, that and human trafficking. So why is it that they can do things like that? Why is it that they can, and they also like to beat each other up? That's how they communicate, it seems like. Why is it? Why is that? And also, if we're talking about taxes, why is it that, no, that's not a good example, but not taxes, but um, uh, not taxes, but the bureaucrats and diplomats, they're all corrupt. No, no, sorry, I'll take that back. They're not all corrupt, but many of them seems to be corrupt. Like the Norwegian, not I'll try not to talk so much about the Norwegians, but especially the people working in your government, working in other countries, is highly corrupt. It's most likely highly corrupt, and these people, they have, they're just sucking. Yeah. Um, I'll try to finish that sentence in the right way. Um, Taxpayers' money out of the state on a daily basis, millions upon millions upon millions. So it is true when they say that it is rigged against you. It is rigged against you because these people, they are not interested in competition. Because here's another thing that I have noticed about these people, the so-called elites and the people who aspire to be like them and to be among them. They are not very bright. They're not. Some people have a job where you have to really, really use your intelligence and you have to be sharp. You have to keep a sharp mind every day, every hour of that day. And I will argue that my job is one of those jobs because I'm a novelist. I guess if you're a scientist, you also have that kind of job, and many other lines of work you have to, well, a doctor, a surgeon, and the list goes on and on. You have to really, really be sharp. You can't be an idiot. But when you look at, have you read the Epstein files? Not all of it, of course, but have you seen these messages? These fuckers can hardly write. They can hardly write, and I can tell because it's not just that they are communicating in a. They're just writing it very hastily. No, they can hardly write because you can tell from the spelling mistakes that they are making. Those are the spelling mistakes they would make if even if they had a lot of time, and they can hardly write. So they're not very bright. And what I'm seeing now is that it is interesting who is getting rich, who is getting poor. Most people, most of us are getting poorer, less money, poorer, right? Because even though they try to hide it, now I don't know the data. I haven't seen the numbers for all countries, of course, but what it looks like is taxes are increasing, and they are hiding it, and people usually are not intelligent enough or perceptive enough to understand what taxes what they are, where they are in society. But all in all, taxes are increasing. So that's it's important to understand that the, the most your major cost in life, most likely your major cost in life is taxes. That's what you're going to spend most money on. So when taxes are rising, you get poorer. You're not getting more money when these socialists, they are crying and screaming, we will tax the rich, because they usually end up not taxing the rich. They tax you instead. And even though they might say that, well, we are, you look at your taxes, it went down 0.5% last year because of our socialist or Democrat in the USA policies or whatever, you know. Yeah, that's very cute. But then they raise the VAT on essential goods and so on, and or the tariffs go up. In the USA, you have the fucking idiot in charge there raising the tariffs. Yeah, who's going to pay for that? Who's paying for that? You are paying for that because when goods get more expensive, those expenses are just added to the price. This is very, this is simple mathematics. So, um, Dragon Slayer, either. Um, Everything you're buying gets more expensive. That's we call that inflation. And one thing that people don't realize about inflation is that when a state calculates inflation, they pick and choose which areas of society they will monitor. So it's very easy to kind of give you a skewed number there. Very easy. Um, Sharkana says we have empty shelves in Vancouver, maybe because of tariffs. I'm sorry to hear that. Um, um, yeah. So I'm I'm feeling this. I'm seeing this, and I eat a lot of. Yeah, well, I'm moving towards only what I call real foods, and no added sugar, no ultra processed food at all. So I'm starting that on Saturday. So it's hardly anything left. There is some sugar in this drink. There is some sugar here, but I'm moving towards whole foods. Thank you, Angela. Moving towards that. That food is more expensive. Lots of beef, fish, um, organic vegetables. It's better for you if you do that. But it's all of that gets more expensive. All of that gets more expensive. And when I'm shopping, I see people what they are buying, and most of their shopping trolleys are filled up with ultra processed foods, which is not good for you. We know that now. It's a new. It's going to be like the tobacco industry in a few years. We're going to look back at that and shake our heads. And people are crazy. Were they really eating that? Um, so it gets more expensive. I don't buy stuff anymore. Um, well, actually, I'm lying. I bought a about $10 were $10 was the price in Norwegian kroner. A what do you call it? Headband, woolly headband. Yeah. So yeah, that's my clothing shopping done for this year. Because I want to save up money for my retirement. Um, and I am getting older. We all are getting older, and I'm not going to be able to work forever. Yeah, Jamie, big spender. I know, big spender. Yes, but it's like I know how difficult it is to make money. It's not automatic. If I stop working, I make no money. So you know, it's just that's how it is. So I don't spend money. I spend money only on the things I have to spend money on. Um, yeah, so that's all of that is getting more expensive. All the other services that you're using, your internet connection and all, it just adds up. Um, at the same time, my income is going down. It's going down. It's going down and down, down, down. um, and that's in my case. That's because even though all my books, at least in Norway and in some cases, sometimes in Germany as well, they are on the top best-selling list. But that doesn't really mean anymore that you are going to make a fortune on your books because people are generally buying less books now than they used to. And they're downloading more audiobooks, but I'm not making that much money on audiobooks, you know. So I'm making less money on my books. At the moment, I have no offers from English language publishers. I hope that if you're listening to this in the future, I hope that that has changed. I don't have the time to publish on my own because that takes a lot of effort. Not so much because of the translation, because I would not be translating myself, of course, but um, it's just protecting the work from piracy is takes a lot of effort, and I can't spend so much time on that. So yeah, the people stealing your stuff, that's the reason why I can't do it myself. Big publishing companies, they have the resources and structures to protect your work, but I have no offers right now. And no, I'm not reading my I'm not the voice on my audiobooks because I don't have time for that. It takes a lot of time to read the books. So YouTube, I have to talk about YouTube as well. It's not moving forward, is it? It's just not. This channel has gained a few more subscribers, but it's been, for a couple of years, it's been not moving anywhere. And I get it. It's okay. With this channel, I'm not expecting that at all. But my main channel and my outdoors channel, I was hoping for a little bit more. But no, not only that, but even though my views are okay usually, what I'm making in ad revenue on the videos, and I know people hate when YouTubers talk about this because they expect you to do it for free. You're not allowed to complain about how much money you're making on YouTube. But you know what? I don't care what you think if that's your opinion. I really don't care. I will say what I want. And what I want to say is that I'm making less money in ad revenue per view now, much less than before. Also, and you may not know this, but being in Norway, I don't know what it is, but we're not making as much money per view. We never did, as people in the UK or the USA. So, I do research on all my videos on the main channel. I can't remember everything about the Viking Age, at all times. So I do the research, I go out, I film, I edit. It takes a lot of time. And I usually make around $50 per video. $50 per video. So you can understand that that's not viable. So I'm going to have to get sponsors for my videos. And I've been doing this for 10 years, never had a sponsor. I said no for 10 years. But I'm going to have sponsors now. And I'll make it funny and entertaining, but I know that people will then be leaving, and they will be leaving after they have written a comment like, "Oh, so disappointed in you. You sold your soul," and all of that. But it's either that or becoming someone who just catered to YouTube's algorithm at all times. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. You can see these people, catering to the algorithm. It's like they lose their souls. They lose their souls. You see their AI generated thumbnails and clickbaited title and all of that. No, I don't want to go there. Don't want to go there. So Let's see here. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good comment. That's Dirpit says you can't survive on their approval. Do what you need, Bjorn. That's a damn good comment. Hold on. I'll pin that comment there. That's well said. That's well said. I'll remember that one. Yeah, Green Eyed Lady says, I noticed many YouTubers are having sponsors now. I have no problem with that. Yeah, thank you. This microphone here, you know how many videos I would have to make to pay for this microphone? Let's see, 15 videos. 15 videos. Only to pay for this. And if I make manage to make one of those videos per week, that's 15 weeks. 15 weeks. But anyway, and it is nice when people say, you look so happy when you go camping. And I will absolutely go camping a lot. But those videos are making even less because there aren't that many people out there interested in watching a middle-aged Norwegian guy going hiking and sleeping in a tent. So, that's just how it is. But anyway, so yeah, it is also, yeah, so the case is that I guess for most people, we are either getting paid less for what we are already doing, or your employer, if you have an employer, most people do, are expecting you to work more hours for the same money. Anyone here in the chat, is that your situation now? That you're being pressured into working more, working harder for the same money? Yeah. Bringing my dogs camping. The problem is they don't like the cold, and also they run away. So it's a bit complicated. I have to keep them on a leash. Yeah. Jeffrey says, I work the same for less money after inflation. Thank you, Thomas. Yeah, created by nature studio. Working is more like slavery now, sadly. Yeah. And again, you have reason to be angry now. You have reason to be angry because no matter which country you're living in, what we are seeing now is that there's a new class, or maybe not new, maybe it's always been like this, but it's a class of people out there who are not, as I said, very bright. They didn't get there because of their talent or hard work, usually. They're not moral people with a good functioning ethical moral compass. They're not. They're not good people. They will take advantage of those around them. And you see this unholy coalition between big tech, big media, big pharma, um, and the governments. And you see that they are helping each other. They're I was about to use a very rude term, I won't, but you see them promoting each other into positions and giving each other raises and money and all of that. And they seem to, whatever they do, if they make a mistake, they're not fired. They just fail upwards. You know that expression? They fail upwards. Um, it's like the Norwegian former Prime Minister Torbjørn Jagland, who was, they say in the international news that he's been arrested. He has not been arrested. He should be. He was deeply involved with Epstein, deeply corrupt. He's being investigated now for corruption. And he's always been a bit of an idiot. You can hear it when he's talking. He's been failing upwards. Every time he failed in a job, he's a politician. He kind of got promoted. He was in the Nobel Institute, about all about the Nobel Peace Prize and that thing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Comment here: the audacity of people in charge is frightening. No one can tell me that they are so stupid that they do not know what they are doing. Good comment. Of course they know what they are doing. It's just that at this point they know that they've been caught. Like, if we're talking about the Epstein files and these people who went to that island and to his mansion and all of that, as I've said before, what consenting adults do together, it's not my business. But this seems to have been an evil group of people who took advantage of children in the most horrible way we can imagine. I won't even get into it. It's very disturbing. And the fact that there have been no arrests, they're not in prison, they're not being thoroughly investigated, it's fucking disgusting. It's disgusting. And it tells us everything we need to know about this society, the so-called modern society that we're living in. It's not fair. It's not, we don't have equality for the law. We don't have, there is a protected class of people out there. That's what's going on. And it's disgusting, you know. I will be, both me and moderators will be removing if it gets into the Jesus and all Christian talk and all of that, we will be just removing those comments. Okay. So let's move on here. We need to talk about retirement. I think it's very obvious now that if you're 20 years old now, you're not ever going to retire. If you're 30 years old now, also, I think you're never going to retire. If you're 40 years old now, I don't think you will fully retire. You might get a pension, but you will most likely it will not be enough for you. You will have to work. You will have to work in addition to that. Carola, I said good morning to you. Now I'm 53, and I'm not sure if I will ever be able to retire because I most of my life I had a very low income as a novelist. It took off in 2016, and after that I've had a high income. That's starting to change now. I'm getting less money now. Um, and also living in Norway, it means that the interest rate is high, inflation is high. So it's not so easy now. But um, I don't think that I don't trust the state. I don't trust the state. So it is a problem now. I think it's something that a lot of people are feeling, and not only in Norway, but in many countries now. Here's what I think: if you are in your 50s, now let's say 60, I think that you should be allowed to retire at 60. I think that if you want to, you should be allowed to retire at 60. And here's something I'll tell you one thing now, and this has been why is this accepted? Listen to this. At least in Norway, it's like this: if you are employed by the state, you can retire at 62. But if you're employed by a private company, you can retire at 67. Why is there a difference? Why is there a difference there? That's not fair. That's not fair. Carola says that she will not be able to retire. She says all the money I paid into the pension is up. Pension up to now is just gone. The state uses it for something else. Yeah, I think that it's not that there isn't money. It's just that they don't prioritize us, do they? So if you're in the USA, watching every time some 20-year-old soldier is pushing a button to send a drone or a rocket into Iran, that there goes your pension fund. Israel is just the American government. They care a lot more about Israel than its own citizens. And if you are in Europe, well, I know that they're spending a lot of money on immigration. And I'm not saying that people who are proper refugees, like they're escaping something horrible, that they should not get help when they come to your country. I agree with that, but that's not the case. In most cases, that's not how it is at all. So, while it is fair that we in Norway we helped a lot of Ukrainian women, here I think that's something that we should do. But all in all, I think Europe is going down the drain because of two main costs. And those are number one, immigration into Europe, and number two, a strange obsession with moving away from the fueled petrol fueled and gas fueled energy. Um, it is there is no sense and reason in that at all. At all, it's just insane. So what they're doing, and you know, I won't get into that too much in this live stream, but every time I see them devastating a natural area here in Norway to erect those wind turbines, I'm just thinking how many pensions are wasted, are spent on that. How many? Hmm. But anyway, what do I know? What do I know? Yeah, stealth mode. Yeah, you're talking about the war. We're sorting our trash, like paper in one bin, plastics in one bin, and all of that. So yeah, I'm sure that it helps that we do that. I'm sure it helps, and then we can sit down and watch the news, watch the rockets hitting kids in Iran, watch the flames rising to the sky, watch them hitting oil refineries and whatever. Yeah. Um, it's I've used this expression before, and at this point I think that it is a, a suitable, it's a fitting expression. They're pissing on you and they're not even trying to call it rain anymore. Yeah. The guy next door, thank you for that comment. I'll read it. We had a news article in Norwegian about what our tax money actually go to. Aid to corrupt countries made up a significant amount of money. Yes. It is like we suspected. Norwegian foreign aid has not been effective in much else than what you say, lining the money of corrupt dictators. I'm sure there are exceptions, but it's been extremely ineffective when it comes to actually helping people. Lining the pockets, yeah, that's what I said, wasn't it, Jeffrey? One thing you did not know, I went to an elite school. We call it videregående. That's from 3 years up until you're 18 or 19. And back then, in the Stone Age, I was, we had, it was this arrangement where some schools were like based on your grades, you were accepted there. So I went there, and a lot of these politicians' kids were there as well. The Labor Party politicians' kids were there, and they were so fucking obnoxious. They had, we had debates in class, and they were just you could tell that they were just quoting what they had been told in their youth groups in the Labour Party. And I was almost throwing up every time I heard them talk, you know. And these kids, they went on to, now they are in, many of them are in well paid positions in the Norwegian foreign departments, what do you call it? Yeah, foreign departments. Bureaucrats and politicians, that's their job. They never had a real job, and that's what they're doing. And now they're making a lot of money on that. Why is that? Why is that? Yeah, I will admit that they had some intelligence because they were able to get into that school. Um, and I don't want to assume that they got in there. Maybe I'm being naive. Maybe they were just put there by their parents. I don't want to think that, but I wouldn't be too surprised actually. But the point here is that they were spoon fed, quote unquote, right opinions um, about socialism and all of that shit, and then they went on to become rich on taxpayers' money. That's what they do, you know. How is it that people who talk about socialism and things being fair all the time, how can they sit there and have a yearly salary three times, four times the salary, and even more sometimes, the salary of normal people? How how are they okay with that? Is that against the principles of socialism, isn't it? Just asking the question. Jeffrey, no, where is it? KP Hidden. Yes, there was a bombing in our country outside of the American embassy just a few days ago. Yeah, so thank you to Mr. Trump for increasing our risk of getting killed here in Norway by Muslim Islamist terrorists. Thank you. Trump is very brave behind all his bodyguards in his own country, far away from Iran. He's a brave man. They say he has big balls. I don't want to know about that, but some would say that it's not so brave maybe when all the risk falls on all the damage, collateral damage, falls on European countries. But I get it. They hate Europe, so yeah, I get it. But we will. I'm sure that when the war spreads, I don't know if it will do that, but if it does, I'm sure that our brave politicians, well, they've already said that they are ready to send our kids to fight and die. They are so brave, these politicians, behind all their bodyguards, far away from the front line. So brave, so brave. Yeah, don't get me wrong here. Of course, I absolutely support the killing of what was his name, Kamane, Kamane. How do you say it? That psychopath on top there in the theocracy in Iran. You know, I just think that this is not the way to do it. This is not the way to do it. And according to the guy with the this Mr. Slick Hegseth, they are not. Their goal is not to have a regime change in Iran. That's what they said. Yeah, I think it's all about oil, isn't it? Convenient, invading Venezuela. I would have done, if I were to strike a foreign country that is supplying the world with oil, if I was a psychopath without any morals, I would just invade another country first that would provide me with oil and gas, like Venezuela. Then you can just bomb the shit out of that other country because then you can sell all that oil from the country you just invaded. It's brilliant. It's about silver too. I didn't know that. Um, yeah. I heard they're not ruling out drafting American kids too in the upcoming war. Um, I think that I'll tell you something about military mandatory conscription or the draft. That if you're in the outside of Europe, you may not know this. There are two real dangers there. For the first one is obvious. They take your kid, they send your kid out in the war, and your kid gets maimed or killed. So, for that reason alone, it should be obvious that this is something that we should never do. If these politicians want a war so badly, yeah, let them go there and fight. But the other thing, the other danger about the military conscription of military, the draft, is that it changes the behavior and mentality of the people in your nation. In Norway, we have had the draft mandatory military conscription for, yeah, for a long, long time. And the attitude here is that it's a good thing. The attitude among a majority of people is that it's a good thing for kids to do. Some people will say, yeah, let's make real men out of them. Now it's for the women as well, or the girls. And they don't realize, these people are very naive, and they don't realize that when the state gets you into the military, they own you. And they can, if they want to, they can just send those kids into the meat grinder. So this is the naivety of people. They don't realize that that's what it is about. So when you go into the military, you're taught to think, you're taught to diminish yourself as an individual and see yourself as part of a group. And that group is more important than you. Your ability for critical thinking is squished under the heels of the sergeant, and your willingness to obey orders, even though you disagree with those orders, are increased. That's what I want. So it's brainwashing basically, because it's not natural to human beings to kill people that we never met, that we don't know them. Why the hell would you, in your right mind, shoot someone, a stranger over there? Why would you do that? Now the autofocus went. Let's see. There it is. Why would you do that? You wouldn't do that because it's crazy and evil. So the military is all about making you changing your mind so that you would be okay with doing that. If someone threatened me or people I care for, like properly threaten me, I would kill that person. Now we're talking not like someone being a little bit nasty, but you get what I'm saying. If I could, if I would kill that person, and I think you would too. And people who are saying that, no, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't beat someone to death with a bedroom lamp or or with your fists. You wouldn't do that. Oh yes, you would. You would. If that person was threatening to kill your kids, you would absolutely do that. So if you want to know, if you when you go to they have this interview with you in the military when you go there here in Norway, um, and they are asking you, and there was this question, if you come, it was like this back in the day when I was, that age. You come down from your, uh, I'm not even kidding. Uh, how was it? You see, I can't remember it correctly now. It was either you come down from from the second floor in your house or something like that. You come out of your room or something, and you see someone raping your mother. Would you do nothing, or would you try to do something about that? That was the actual question back in the day. And if you answer, I would do something about that, then you're not a pacifist, and they will just draft you. So you see how this works. It's like the draft is the only way to get out of that was to say that, well, I would not do anything. I would not do anything. And so every boy knew that when you get that question, you have to say, I would do nothing, because then they would write pacifist, and then you didn't get out of you did get out of the military, but the state still owns you for a year. But you would be maybe employed in a kindergarten or some other old people's home or something like that, instead of being in the military back then. Now I was lucky because I was drafted, but I was put on a reserve list. um, and my job is still, until I'm 55, to go and clean up after chemical and nuclear disasters. And I've had no training, if you want to know. So yeah, that's the military. That's the draft. um, so yeah. So I hope they don't activate the draft in the USA or in any other countries. They need to get rid of that. Mokita Bonita. Hi, hello to you. I'm sorry to hear that, Barbara. I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, I'm anti-war. I'm against war. Um, I'm against war. I think any reasonable human being should be as well. If you can think, you should be against. You should not be in support of war. Of course, sometimes you don't have a choice, but I think usually before a war starts, you do have a choice. These days, usually you have a choice. There is something that can be done to prevent the war from breaking out. Salih says, I don't like war, but that Ayatollah had to go. Yeah, I agree. But the thing is, they also bombed a girls' school. Do I think that that was a price that we should be willing to pay? No. I am not I do not agree with even one innocent person being killed for a horrible human being like that Ayatollah to be killed. Did I say that correctly? I'll say it again. I do not agree with anyone dying if that for that Ayatollah to be killed. Yeah, you get what I'm saying here. Let's see. Terry says, compulsory army in Cyprus. Your youngest going in July. God protect him. Yes. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Cyprus is, yeah. I'm sure it will be okay. You know, we have to be positive, but it's not a good thing. Question here. In post-industrialization times, so after the industrialization of the Western world, has a war ever created peace? Has any of the wars created peace? So you had, I'm just asking the question. Some would say the Second World War created peace. I don't agree with that. And the Second World War would not have happened if the First World War did not happen. And the First World War, if that had been the end of that or had been handled differently, I don't think we would have had a Second World War. The end of World War II created peace, I think. Yeah, I'm just asking the question. But when we talk about the Second World War, some would say that what we are seeing now is a result of what was done during and after the Second World War. I'm not an expert on the Second World War. I'm more like Viking Age, but you know, some would say that it resulted in the Cold War. The Cold War resulted in the occupation of Eastern Europe and the breaking down of communism, or communism is not working, of course. It will never work. And that led to the end of the Soviet Union. And that seems to, now we have Putin and all of that, and they seek to, yeah, we have the war in Ukraine. It's all like it one war follows the other war, you know. So I'm just asking the question, and it's Yeah, Canadian Spider-Man says, I've backpacked through many of the sites in France and Germany, as well as Poland, Germany, and Japan too. That was some effed up stuff, man. No way would we want to go through that now. Yeah, yeah. Have you lived in peace? Is Sally is asking. I think she's asking all of us here. Maybe I have. I have. I would still argue that I live in peace now. Um, but I understand that it's not to be taken for granted, and I disagree with how our current politicians are. They say we shouldn't take peace for granted, so we should spend all our money on the military. I disagree with that statement. I think peace is kept and strengthened through collaboration with other nations, through trade, through exchange of culture. I'm thinking about Russia. We had a very good development there, um, you know, in that regard. And I think yes, we should have a strong military. And that does not shouldn't rely on manpower, by the way, not in this technological age. But peace is not kept through strengthening your military. I don't think that's the way to do it. I think it is collaboration. It is creating a better understanding of each other. That's how we keep peace. um, yeah. Ultimate Barbara. Yeah, you are right. Israel. What was done there obviously created a lot of problems. Um, Now we have. Well, Israel is. I'll say this: if Israel was gone, there would be more peace. I know that's a statement that a lot of people will disagree with, but it should be obvious now. Do I think it's fair? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you think is fair or not fair. But if Israel was gone, then and I don't care about the history. I don't care. There are people saying that, oh, the Jewish people have always been there. No, they have not. They occupied. It says in the Bible they killed the people that were there. So it's like, no, they haven't, and that doesn't matter. We have to look at the situation now, and it's quite obvious that Israel, which Israel is funded by the USA, and you have an extremist government in Israel now, and they hate the people around them. They think that they are God's chosen people and that they have the right to kill those who are not like them. Do I think that I'll just make it very clear. We need to understand also that they are surrounded by terrorists. They are surrounded by, like Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist group. They are, I think, I've said it before, I do support the killing of leaders in Hamas. They must dismantle Hamas. How to do that, I don't know. Israel's method seems to have done nothing to weaken Hamas, but the killing of Palestinians. Who can support that? You must be a psychopath if you support that. So, Yeah, we can talk all day long about um, Epstein's connections to Mossad. What does Israel have on Trump? Are they is there some kind of blackmailing there? What is going on there? Um, yeah, uh, yeah. I don't know. There's a discussion here. I can't see the context. Just be kind to each other. Okay. Um, I, yeah. Yeah, they say that most wars are caused by religion. Um, I think most wars are caused by ideology, or that ideology is used as an excuse to grab resources and territory. Um, and I must say also that for me, as I guess Christians would say that I'm a pagan or a heathen, and I am looking at Christians, Muslims, and Jewish people. To me, they're all bending the knee to the same God. You know, well, they are, and they disagree on how to bend that knee. They disagree on well, the Muslims, they put their forehead to the ground and lift their butt up. Looks like ridiculous, if you ask me. And the Christians, they stick their fingers into each other. And the Jewish, they what do they do? Oh, they stand by that wall and all of that. To me, it's all ridiculous. It's all ridiculous. Um, if you have a God, awesome. If you believe in a God, awesome. That's great. Good for you, but it should be a private thing, you know. And I think that if there is such a God, uh, that God doesn't care about if you're a Muslim or a Jew or a Christian, what kind of food you eat or don't eat, if you pray or you don't pray or whatever, that God won't care about that. Maybe I'm tempted to, I want to think that if there is such a God, that God wants us to be good human beings to the best of our abilities, you know? But who knows? Maybe there is such a God and that God doesn't care at all. I've come to the conclusion that the meaning of life is very simple. I've come to the conclusion that we are animals, and there's not really that much of a difference between us and a mouse or a bird or whatever. And if you look at them, they're all about procreating. So the meaning of life is to have children. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. I know it's not, it's not as romantic or doesn't take a lot of philosophy or anything like that. It's just very simple. That's the meaning of life. Having said that, I think that it is important that we find meaning in our life while we are alive. I think that's very important. We have talked a lot about that here on this channel before. You know, what brings you meaning? And I'm currently in a bit of a rut. And I yes, let's talk a little bit about that. Um, what brings you meaning in life? And what brings you joy? I also think that we are meant to be in groups. I know me saying that I'm alone all the time. Why do I say that? I wish I was in a good friendly group. I wish I was, but because I think that's what makes us happy. We are meant to live somewhat isolated, somewhat isolated from the rest of the world in a close knit society with friends and family. We are meant to walk around and forage and hunt during the day and then sit by the campfire with friends and family during the evenings, telling stories and whatever. It's really that simple. Outside under the sun. It really is that simple. We know this because we are healthiest when we eat real food from nature and when we are out under the sun. And that has been thoroughly researched now. It, I mean, a life like most people live their lives now, indoors, looking at screens, alone. And even if you have someone, that person is most likely just looking at screens all day, all evening when you see that person. It's not good. Actually, well, I have looked into the physiology of this, and actually, you do get, if you sleep in the same bed, you have as a woman, well, if you're a man and you sleep in the same bed as a woman, it increases your testosterone. Did you know that? So that's probably a good thing to do. Because when she's ovulating, it increases your testosterone quite significantly. And that's a good thing. It's almost as if we are supposed to procreate and have kids. um, you know? Yeah. I don't know. It's like when I go out there, I spend a lot of time out in nature, and there's nobody there. Well, I sometimes I meet people, but not often. It's very rare. And I get it. People work all day and then they come home and they sit in front of the TV during the evenings. That's what they do, you know. So, um, yeah, but yes, Canadian Spider Man says, I prefer being alone, lots of time in the woods. I prefer not being responsible for anyone but myself. I absolutely get that. I can relate to that, but it's not natural for us, I think. Um, so, yeah. Sally says, I love all that you're saying, Bjorn, but is that, you mean, is it the ultimate meaning? I don't know. So yeah, I guess also when you get older, you get set in your ways. Isn't that what they say? And you can't, you don't tolerate other people's bullshit anymore. You know. So there's that as well. But I I worry about younger people because it seems like what are they doing? How are they spending their days? What I mean, where are they? What are they doing? Are they studying? That's yeah, okay, but you know, how are they spending their days? Is it like they study or work and maybe they go to the gym? Uh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't see young people anymore. I don't know where they are. They're not out in the woods. Not out in the woods. Um, Mojita Bonita says the ultimate meaning is children. Yeah, as I said, that seems to be why we are here. All animals are like that. But what about those people who can't have children? You know, would it be correct to say that their lives are meaningless? Obviously not. So while I do say that it seems like the meaning of life is to procreate, there must be more than that, right? There must be more than that. So because people who don't have children, they either by choice or because they can't, maybe they haven't met the right partner. Um, it's obvious that it's only logical to from that to assume that there must be more to life than just having children because they obviously have their lives have meaning too, if you get what I'm saying. Yeah. Stealth mode, there are a lot of men that are having trouble finding compatible women. Yeah, that's true. That is true. And the women here will say that women have problems finding men as well. But yeah. Um, I don't know. Well, I do know why it's. I have an idea. At least I have some ideas how it's become like this. Um, and I think that for me, it goes back to COVID. During COVID, as an unvaccinated person, I lost all faith in the goodness of people. I lost all faith in this society being fair. And I absolutely understand how people can stand and watch and even help in atrocities happening. You get bitter, you know, when you heard enough times that you should be in prison for not letting the state inject you with something. When you heard enough times that you should be executed. I'm not even kidding. for that, for not allowing the state to inject you with something. You lose faith in humanity. And for me, that was when, if you want to know, I don't know if you're interested, but I'll say it anyway. For me, that was when I was always kind of a loner, but that's when it took off. That's when I lost the friends that I had. I didn't have that many friends, but the ones I did have, I lost all of those. And it's been like that ever since. So, yeah, as I said, it makes you kind of bitter, and I think people who say you shouldn't be bitter. Well, when you receive death threats, it does have an effect on you. When it happens not only once, but several times, it does have an effect on you. Friends, family, all gone. You know, and the one thing that annoys me the most is that these people are so fucking weak that now that we know that those of us, now I am going to talk a little bit about COVID and the vaccines and get demonetized here, but I'm not making that much money anyway on these live streams. But now that we know what we know about the vaccines, the COVID vaccines, we can also say that those who were saying that it's probably not a good idea to get the vaccine, we were right. That was a correct thing to say. We were right. Now, I'm obviously not blaming anyone for getting that vaccine. As I've always said, that must be your individual choice. It's not my choice to make for you. It's not the state's choice. You must make that choice. That's what I've always said. But we do know that it was correct, probably. There might be some medical cases where it was right to get the vaccine. Could be. It could be. In almost all cases, probably it was better not to get that vaccine. We know that now. That information is available out there. These people who were so rude to us unvaccinated people during COVID, they should have apologized. But 0% have apologized. Oh, sorry. I've seen a handful of comments actually in here on YouTube on my videos. People have apologized, and I've on Patreon I have gotten some messages, people apologizing, people who never hurt me at all, but they so I'll take my invisible hat off to those people. But no friends and family, no, nobody's apologized. Nobody's come back. Nobody. And I don't know about you, but if I had the audacity to tell someone that, or to write on social media about someone, that person should be put in jail for something, in this case, not getting a vaccine, I would have apologized. Now, I would never have said that or written that because I don't think that's, yeah, but you get what I'm saying? Yeah, Sally says they won't apologize. Most of them still think they're right. Yeah, that's probably true as well. They don't, they stopped informing themselves. Maybe they never informed themselves about this at all, you know? But it's like, I think it's our duty to stay informed about things that affects us directly, like food and health and, all of that. Yeah. And if you're a parent, of course, you need to stay informed about food and health and all of that in because of your kids, to give your kids a healthy upbringing. Yeah, Sharp Canine says I still weigh in on the side of science. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And we know that, well, we actually knew all along that following the science here means that getting that vaccine was not a good idea. um, yeah, I used to get a cold once or twice a year, a mild cold. But if you had asked me when I have the cold, if you ask me when I have the cold, I will tell you that it's the flu and it's the worst thing ever. I get the man flu, you know. But knock wood, I haven't had a cold in years now. And I am it's no, I didn't get it. I didn't get a cold every year. No, that's not correct. But at least now I haven't had a cold in many years. So yeah, or the man flu. Yes, yes, but I am seeing that, I think almost without exception, the people who got the vaccine, they get a cold or a flu several times a year, exactly as the real scientists warned about, because it makes your immune system, the COVID vaccine makes your immune system less flexible. It doesn't recognize new variants, however you say it, of flu as easily. So that's why people who got the vaccine seem to get sick more often, because their immune system is weakened in that regard. So, and again, we started talking about the elites or the parasite class. Now that we know what we know, how is it that Bill Gates and his friends and the governments, the politicians who force this upon people, employers who force this upon people, how is it that they are not investigated and put in jail? How is that? Because it's not fair. It's not, the system is rigged. We also know, of course, that Bill Gates and Jeffrey Epstein was plotting, conspiring is the right word, to monetize a future pandemic with vaccines. It's all in the files, you know. Should we start calling it the Epstein vaccine? The Epstein vaccine? I'm tempted to start calling it that, the Epstein vaccine, although it sounds like you're vaccinated against Epstein, and but you get what I'm saying. Bright-eyed bushy-tailed says, I used to make videos on YouTube on an old account. YouTube shut down after I started talking truth about COVID. Yeah. Uh, hmm. Yeah, some people here had the vaccine, some people didn't. Um, you know, if you got the vaccine and you're not getting sick, I am so glad to hear that. I'm so glad to hear that. Don't ever, I don't want anyone out there ever to think that I'm like, oh, he got the vaccine, oh, and I'm now it's getting sick, ha ha ha. No, 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 no. Now, this is one of those cases where I always said, I hope I'm wrong, but I was not. So, yeah. Um, so, let's see here. Antibiotics saved my life, says Bright Eyed Bushy Tail. Hmm. Yeah, I got antibiotics as well. Some years ago, I got a. Um, they made a mistake in the doctor made a mistake. I, for some reason, I got a urine. What do you call it? Urine infection? No, you know what kids get that sometimes. I didn't know what it was. I don't know how I got it. It's still a mystery, but I did, and I thought, what's this? And so I went and delivered a urine sample to the doctor, and they said, no, everything's fine. Okay. And then a few days later, I got suddenly a very high fever. But is it called a bladder infection? Uh, but anyway, yeah, I didn't know what it was because I think I maybe had it when I was a kid once. But anyway, so I was also working towards a deadline, so I had to sit here and work on my book, and I was so sick. And I've managed to finish um, um, and before the deadline, and then my fever just went up straight up, and I went to the doctor again. Oh, you have a kidney no a kidney infection because it's apparently it can spread up into your kidneys, and that's very dangerous. And because they had made a mistake, they sent me the wrong answer. So, no, you don't have an infection. Instead of, yes, you actually have an infection and you need antibiotics. But then I got antibiotics and got that fixed the problem. But that was kind of scary. And you can die from that, actually. You can actually die from that. So, urinary I don't know what it was actually, but the thing that I the common thing, the common thing that is not so yeah, the drip. What's that? Uh, no, don't go speculating here. Um, don't go speculating. I don't know UTI. I don't know what that stands for, but I hope you're not implying it was like a sexually transmitted disease or anything like that. It was not. It's what some kids get, um, urinary, urinary tract infection. Oh, UTI, yes, probably that. The most common thing, which is easily treatable, but apparently, and that this is my point. Okay, if it's not treated with antibiotics, it can spread up into your kidneys, and that's quite dangerous. That's quite dangerous. No, I would, Jeffrey. Thank you. Cranberry juice. Yeah, well, I think that antibiotics is what you need if you have that. But they made a mistake. So apparently, yeah, free healthcare and all of that. First of all, it's not completely free, but also here in Norway. But also they make mistakes, and then you can die from that. Um, so I'm not. I just mentioned that because I'm not saying that. I'm not all into all. We should all go back to nature and disregard everything modern. I'm not saying that at all. We should use antibiotics if we need to. Um, so this is my pointer. I'm slowly getting to my point. I sometimes get comments like, "Oh, you want to get back to nature? Good luck with that. You'll die of an infection in 2 years," and all of that. I'm not saying we should listen. It's like we shouldn't disregard everything modern. Let's use what is good from modern society, like the antibiotics in this case. Let's use that and not use the things that are bad for us, like doom scrolling, ultra processed foods, and all of that. So that was my point. Yeah. Jeffrey says also natural things that work for UTI. Yeah, I didn't know, but yeah, I guess people treated it back. If it's such a common thing to get, I must assume that they had other ways to treat it before antibiotics. Yeah. Um, let's see. Yeah, I'm not a physician, so I this is none of this obviously is medical advice. Obviously, that was my experience, and yes, we should absolutely embrace some parts of modern society, but that doesn't mean that we cannot go back to nature, return to nature, and live a more natural life, a happier life, more in tune with how we are supposed to live. Um, so, yeah. But anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. yeah, I'll leave you with that for now. Yeah, thank you, Barbara. But I have to go, and I want to thank you for joining me here. So, okay, I'll be back in a few days, probably. But I will be, I think, tomorrow. There will be uploaded a midweek musing here. I have two lined up for those, and they will only go on this channel because it screwed up the algorithm and all of that on my main channel. So I'll stick to the outdoors and Viking stuff on the main channel. So there will be a video like that tomorrow here. Okay, take care and have a nice day.